Welcome, everyone. This is Owl Freedom Teachings. Used to be um, Owl Freedom Conversations or I Need Living Conversations. This is our 237th session where we have Blue Hair and Woman here with you who's been researching and reading all the books and getting and having that pinpointed eye for all that information that does not go through the mainstream channels and point and finding all that information that helps us find holistic, real freedom. So today we're talking about why walking is the exercise your body was designed for. Am I right?
Yes.
That our topic?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's this one of these wonderful things that is just something that we, even if we might intuit that it's right, it's something that we are so away that modern uh, comfort living system has kind of pushed us away from, right? Nobody wants to go walking. Nobody
Right.
walks anymore. Everything has a car. Everything's designed for, the cities are designed for cars. Everything's, we've been talking in other conversations, if you want to watch those, about everything being on a chair and how sitting is an issue. So this is a part of the holistic freedom, holistic health kind of
Right.
information, right?
For except for Europe, Germany. I know the inner cities of the old towns are all designed for
The
walkers.
walking, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome everyone,
So,
and that's going to be our topic.
so why does walking matter? Well, there's a measurement that predicts how long you will live more accurately than your blood pressure or your cholesterol level or your smoking history. And
Okay.
this is a measurement of how fast you walk. Gait
How
speed.
fast you walk? Okay.
Gait speed. And it's not a fast walk.
Yes, like
It's
how
gait
fast
speed.
your regular walking is, right? Something like
Yeah.
that.
Your natural gait speed basically predicts survival better than any standardized medical test. And there was an experiment done with older adults who walked 3 times a week, who stopped aging and grew their brains. So the physics of this starts in our feet. It always starts in the feet.
Yeah.
When we stand, we're not on a flat platform. We are on an arch, and this arch contains 26 bones, 33 joints, and more than 100 tendons and ligaments that are arranged into a bridge, a tensioned arch. And every single bridge we drive across is replicated after our feet. Because it's the same structural principle that holds up bridges. So the arch of our feet stores elastic energy when it compresses under our weight, and it releases that energy when it rebounds, which reduces the metabolic cost of each step by about 17%. And no other primate in the world has this arch. Now let's go back some 200 sessions ago when we talked about the ontological process of our development with the German neonatologist who conveniently died after publishing 2 books, when he said that we did not come out of the trees and lose our tails as monkeys. We are our own species. So no other primate has this arch in their feet. So our feet are spring-loaded platforms that are optimized for walking. And then there's another structure in the sole of our feet that most of us don't know about, and it's called the plantar venous plexus, which is a dense network of veins that are embedded in the tissues of the sole of our feet. So each time our foot strikes the ground, our body weight compresses this plexus and squeezes blood upward. So each step is a palm stroke.
Oh
And
man, what?
walking at a normal pace delivers 60 to 70 palm strokes per minute per foot.
Okay.
So it's a dedicated hydraulic system that is activated only by walking.
Wow, that's just something that I have never heard about, and I'm kind of open to hearing about alternative things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay.
So when we take a step, our body performs an act of controlled falling. We plant a foot, our center of mass rises as we vault over that planted leg, functioning like an inverted pendulum. Think of a grandfather clock upside down.
Mhm.
So as our weight passes over the planted foot and begins to fall forward, the potential energy of that rise converts to kinetic or movement energy with 65% efficiency, and then our muscles only need to supply 35%. This is extraordinary engineering. A robot attempting bipedal walking at this efficiency would require years of optimization, and there are robots that have done that, and they still cannot achieve that same optimization.
And they will never. I dare
They
to
will
say.
never,
Yeah.
because our body does it without conscious thought, adjusting stride length, foot placement, and weight distribution in real time to surface angle, wind, and terrain. And robots are designed to walk on concrete only.
Yeah. And we're not.
Exactly. So these calculations are cerebellum, and that's the structure right here at the back of our head, produces and performs thousands of times a minute without our awareness. So your Achilles tendon, that thick cord that connects your calf to your heel, exists at a length and thickness that is found in no other ape. Here we are again with that Eric Bleckschmidt, I think was his last name, the German neonatologist who died conveniently after he produced the fact that we are our own species. Right? No other ape has the Achilles tendon, which adds another layer to our walking. So during each step, as our body weight loads the forefoot, ball of the foot, the tendon stretches under force and stores elastic energy. And during push-off, as we push off with the ball of our feet, that energy rebounds, contributing propulsive force without extra muscular effort. So the muscular cost of walking is really astonishingly small. The human gait was optimized for endurance and not for speed. This is why we can walk for hours without exhaustion that running produces in minutes. Our wide pelvises, and they say females have wider than men, but men's pelvises are still wider than an ape's. So our wide pelvises, our angled femurs, our locked knees and extension, our short toes, and because our toes can't grasp branches like apes can, right? We're not meant to climb in trees.
Yeah.
And our rigid arch feet make us the most efficient walking machine ever. And we can feel this efficiency when we walk at a natural pace. And that is the speed that feels comfortable without us thinking about it. And that speed is typically 1 to 1.2 meters per second. And it is the pace at which that upside down grandfather clock dynamics produce the most maximum energy recovery. So walking faster than that requires more muscular input to override the pendulum timing. And walking slower requires more muscular input to control the deceleration.
Okay.
So old people that walk with a walker at very slow speeds are requiring a lot of, right? So our body naturally selects the pace that costs the least energy. The
Mhm.
comfortable walking speed is not preference. It is a physical optimization determined by the length of our legs, the mass of our bodies, and the Earth's gravitational field.
Okay.
We don't walk without taking into account Pachamama's gravitational field. That's probably the most important thing we need to get from this. So
Gravity
a Harvard
fed
scientist has
equation.
spent decades demonstrating that the human body is an endurance locomotion machine. His research on persistence hunting, which is a practice that is still observed in some indigenous communities, and it is chasing prey on foot across an open ground until the animal collapses from heat exhaustion, reveals why we are an endurance locomotion machine.
Okay.
Because most mammals cool themselves by panting, which requires that they stop running. They cannot pant and run at the same time.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Well,
that's what we're here for.
it's once you've had dogs, it's kind of natural, but until somebody said it, you don't notice that dogs don't pant while they run.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought about it. I mean, now that you say it,
Exactly, right.
I never made that
makes
observation.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So we humans cool ourselves by sweating. So our 2 million sweat glands, which is far more than any other primate has. So again, we are not descendant from the monkeys, as Eric Gluckschmidt said. Allows for continuous heat dissipation while we are moving. So our ancestors could walk and run for hours in the midday African sun while their prey had to stop and pant. So the hunt was not about speed, it was about endurance. And while the prey was always faster, the human was more persistent. Because the animal cannot cool itself while moving, and it eventually has to stop due to overheat and collapses because of the overheat. So the human that can cool itself while walking catches up.
Wow. It also speaks about us being designed for hunting somehow, right?
Exactly. So the gluteus maximus,
But
known as your butt, is the largest muscle in your body and is most inactive during standing and sitting and fires powerfully during walking and running. So why have men lost their butts in this century? Because they don't walk and run anymore. Another reason, right?
You mentioned one on in another show about.
Yeah, we've talked about a couple, but the most powerful is this.
Yeah. Okay.
So then the nuchal ligament, which is right back here at the back of our head, the elastic band at the back of our skull stabilizes our head during forward motion, and it exists in dogs and humans, but not in chimpanzees.
Oh, wow. Okay. They're not designed for walking.
Once again, we are not descended from the monkeys. We are our own species. So every one of these features is for locomotion. They do not help us sit or stand. They help us walk and run for hours across a distance.
Okay.
So the Harvard scientist's central thesis is that every system in our body was calibrated to a baseline of daily sustained movement that modern life has quietly removed. Hunter-gatherer people walked 6 to 9 miles per day, and agricultural people in the Middle Ages walked comparable distances. And the average person today walks maybe 1 to 2 miles a day, but most of them walk less. Most of us walk less. So the body that was formed and calibrated to walk 6 to 9 miles is receiving maybe 1. This distinction matters almost more than anything in aging. A significant portion of what we perceive as aging is the stiffness in the morning, the heaviness in the legs by afternoon, the loss of balance that makes us reach for the handrail, back pain, the swollen ankles, the fragmented sleep, the cognitive fog. Does not to a calendar. It maps to the step counter.
Okay.
So a 70-year-old who walks 5 miles a day functions in many measurable parameters like a person 10 to 15 years younger. 60-year-old who walks a quarter of a mile a day presents with symptoms attributed to aging that are really just deconditioning. It's a physiological decline from insufficient mechanical input. It's not aging. It's a decline from not walking. It's not aging. It's the body responding to the absence of the input it requires, because the body is not falling apart from time. It falls apart from no locomotion. So here's what walking does to our bones. Our bones are piezoelectric, which means they're constantly producing electricity. So when mechanical force is applied, like the impact of a heel striking the ground, the compression of our spine, the bending forces in our femur, the hydroxyapatite crystals in the bone matrix all generate a small electrical charge. Piezoelectricity is the same property in quartz watches and lighters. When you strike that and get the spark, that's piezoelectricity. Okay. It's the same thing the heel strike does when you walk. And that is built into the mineral structure of our skeletons. Okay. The electrical signal, that electrical signal is not random noise. It is a regulatory signal that is built, that promotes osteoblasts, which are the cells that build bone. And they respond to this charge by increasing their activity. So more impact means more bone building. And orthopedic surgeons have known about this since the 19th century. An orthopedic surgeon named Julius Wolff observed that bone remodels itself along lines of mechanical stress. So it grows thicker where forces are greatest and thins where forces are absent. So our skeleton is not a fixed structure. It is a responsive system that continuously redesigns itself based on the forces applied to itself. And walking provides those forces. So the bones respond by building density where walking forces land, in the heel, in the tibia, in the femoral neck. So when we talk about the femur, we have in the human pelvis, we have the part of the femur that connects with the hip, and then it comes out and it descends downward. That femoral neck is where 90% of osteoarthritic fractures occur. And then in the lumbar spine. And these are all locations where osteoporosis, osteoarthritic fractures occur. So when we stop walking, the electrical signal stops and the bone reabsorbs into our bodies. Astronauts in zero gravity lose bone density of 1.1 to 2% a month because the gravitational loading that generates piezoelectricity is absent. So bones do not need a gym. They need the loading pattern that walking provides. Walking also operates every fluid system in our bodies. Our lymphatic system, the network that carries our immune cells and removes waste and maintains our fluid balance, has no heart, no dedicated pump. Lymph moves when the surrounding muscles squeeze the vessels to push the fluid through their one-way valves. And the calf muscle, the gastrocnemius muscle, is sometimes called the second heart because its contractions during walking drive lymphatic and venous fluid upward against gravity. So when we sit for hours, this pump stops and the lymphocytes pool instead of circulating. And what's the result of pooling? Swollen ankles. So swollen ankles are not a disease. It's the result of a pump not running, but we are taught that they are a disease.
Yeah. Everything is turned into A dogmatic disease.
Yes.
Well, the only disease is us not
To be
being.
given a pill for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So number 2 or number 3 or number 4, our intervertebral discs have no blood supply. They receive nutrition through the rhythmic loading and unloading that walking provides. Walking feeds our spinal discs, and sitting starves them. So fascial tissue, the connective web sheet that wraps every muscle and organ, requires also mechanical pumping to stay hydrated and elastic. So when muscles contract and release during walking, they push fluid out through the fascial layers in the way that kneading bread dough pushes moisture through the matrix. So the early morning stiffness we experience is actual fascial dehydration from overnight stillness. So a body that walks daily starts every morning with better hydrated fascia than one that does not walk. And the difference accumulates. Even our digestive tract depends on walking. Peristalsis, the name of the contractions that move food through our gut, is stimulated by the rhythmic motion of walking. Constipation correlates with physical inactivity more strongly than diet. The gut was designed to process food in a body that moves. Every fluid system was designed to operate in a walking body. In a sitting body, all of them degrade, not from disease or age, but from the absence of the mechanical input that they require. So now we're going to shift the physics of walking from the body to the brain. For most of the 20th century, neuroscience held that the brain, the consensus that the adult brain could not generate new neurons.
Mm-hmm.
That we are born with all the brain cells we could ever have, and aging means losing them. And they said that slowly, roughly 1 to 2% of the hippocampus decreases volume per year after 60. So our hippocampus slows by, decreases by 1 to 2% every year. And the hippocampus is the structure responsible for forming new memories. It's responsible for spatial navigation and the recall of remembering where we parked or what we had for breakfast and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So its steady decline was considered as inevitable as the graying of hair, which we also know now today, graying of hair is not aging, it is lack of copper.
Okay.
So in 2011, that got challenged. That theory got challenged by a scientist who took 120 sedentary older adults. He assigned half of them to a walking program of, this is the same Harvard scientist, of walking program of 40 minutes, 3 times per week for 1 year. He had the other half do stretching exercises for the same duration and frequency. And he measured their hippocampal volume before the experiment started and after. In the stretching group, the hippocampus shrunk as expected. In the walking group, the hippocampus grew by 2%. So walking reverses aging.
Yeah.
Walking for 40 minutes, 3 times a week reverses aging.
And it's not, and it used to be something that you would do naturally.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't need to tell yourself, I need to walk to this. You wouldn't need to schedule it.
Yeah, exactly. So what drives the growth is a protein called BDNF. And walking increases BDNF production in the brain, and it promotes the survival of existing neurons and the growth of new ones, as well as connections. There is another system that walking maintains after the age of 65. Balance, which is not a single ability. It is a real-time integration of vision, the vestibular system of our inner ears, and the proprioceptive system of our joints, tendons, and muscle spindles that detect position and movement of our body in space. The proprioceptive sensors in our ankles and feet are important for walking. They maintain their accuracy through use. So when we stop locomoting, or when we put on hiking boots that encase those systems. So case in point, right, when my daughter was training 3 to 4 years ago to become a wildland firefighter, and she had to hike a certain distance in so many minutes with a weight on her back. And she wore hiking boots that encased her ankles, and I wore what are called skinners.
I can't walk with ankle high stuff. I just cannot.
Right. So she said to me, I don't think my ankles could handle those. And I was like, yeah, your ankles could. They're made to handle those.
Yeah.
That was when the greatest rehab of my body started. Was these skinners are made by Czechoslovakia. They're basically sock shoes. There's nothing except for a little bit thin layer of rubber between your feet and the ground.
Here in Mexico, we have the huaraches, the sandals made with leather, and it's just like strips of leather and a thin sole, and that's it.
Yeah,
and I use that quite often.
I want real huaraches because the huaraches I are two. Anyway, so yeah, so there was another system. We talked about that, the balance. Right? So when we stop locomoting, when we put ankle-high boots on, that stops locomoting in our brain.
Okay.
The system decalibrates, and the loss of balance that many people over 65 experience, or even those of us that wear hiking boots that come up above our ankles, is not neurological decline, it's decalibration. And walking on uneven terrain recalibrates these sensors. So a daily walk in nature on varied terrain with minimal cushioning between your feet and the ground is a proprioceptive training session that no balance exercise in a gym can replicate. So the measurement we started with, the gait speed. The analysis covered 35,000 people over 65 for 6 to 21 years. Gait speed was measured over 4 meters of flat ground, timed to the 10th of a second. And that predicted survival more accurately than age, sex, disease, hospitalization history, or body mass index, or smoking history. People who walked faster or at natural speed lived longer. And that relationship held across every freaking subgroup. It reflects the integrated function of our entire body compressed into one observable act. Gait speed is our body's self-report on the state of every system in our body simultaneously.
Wow. So it is a pump. It is much more than we ever thought of.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and is that all for walking?
That's all for walking.
Okay.
So now we're going to go into a plant that hits 100 tons per acre. A plant that I grow, but I never knew this.
Okay.
This plant was documented producing 100 tons per acre on soil so poor that nothing else would grow. It requires no fertilization, no irrigation after establishment, and no replanting for 20 years. And in 2001, it disappeared from every garden center in America almost overnight. And the $230 billion fertilizer industry had nothing to worry about anymore, as well as the $10 billion hay industry.
Okay.
This is the story of Comfrey, or Comfrey, however you want to pronounce it. And it starts in 90 AD with a Greek physician who is documenting every plant he could find. He wrote about a species with thick, sticky stems and roots and gave it a name that has stuck for centuries, called symphytum. Symphytum.
Okay.
It's a Greek word, meaning making to grow together. He prescribed it for broken bones. The Russian soldiers knew it as knit bone, and Pliny the Elder boiled the roots into a paste so adhesive that he could use it to bind pieces of meat together. This I did not know. I learned about it as an herbalist.
Mm-hmm.
So for nearly 200 years, Europeans carried this knowledge through the generations without questioning the knowledge. In 1845, in Essex, England, there was a man who was a poor Quaker, and he watched the Irish potato famine kill 1 million people. He had tried manufacturing starch and glue for postage stamps, and both businesses had failed, but the famine didn't. Mm-hmm. So in the 1950s, while hunting for a new source of glue, he wrote to the head gardener at the Royal Palace in St. Petersburg, which is now Moscow, requesting a specific variety of Russian symphytum, or comfrey. Mm-hmm. What emerged from the Essex soil changed everything he thought he knew about growing food. He abandoned the glue business and spent 30 years documenting everything he could about comfrey because he believed it would prevent the next famine. He was still working on this when he died at the age of 92, and then his family burned every bit of data he had accumulated, and he and comfrey disappeared into obscurity. And then in 1948, a young horticulturist came across the Quaker story and decided to finish it. So he grew 21 varieties of comfrey, and by 1960, he had one strain that won. And it's called the Bocking 14 or Booking 14. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But then he decided not to patent this, much to the dismay of drug companies, right, and everything. And he mailed free root cuttings to gardeners in England, Africa, and America. Anyone who wrote to ask him for cuttings. So comfrey became established globally, world class, right? Became a world-class plant. So here's what made the chemical industry nervous. Fresh comfrey leaves contain more potassium than farmyard manure. And we talked about the fertilizer, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, K, potassium, mm-hmm. Right? So the thing that matters most here, though, is that most green manures like alfalfa, clover, and grass clippings sit in a compost pile for weeks before they release anything. Comfrey's fiber content is so low that microbes devour it in 48 days. And I can tell you, I have used grass clippings as mulch, and they will sit for a year before they decompose.
Okay.
And even then they don't. That's why having a bagging lawnmower was so important to me, because I was composting, I was using the grass clippings as mulch, and they just never decomposed.
No.
And I don't spray.
Mm-hmm. And
I grow comfrey, and I know it disappears quickly. I haven't ever timed it, but so comfrey's roots push 10 feet deep into the earth, and they function like biological mining drills, pulling up potassium, calcium, and phosphorus into the leaves as well as water. We're looking for deep-rooted plants that bring our water table.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our entire farming industry is decreasing our water table. We're hearing about the Ogallala Aquifer in Nebraska emptying because we're not using deep-rooted plants that bring up the water table. So plant it once, let it grow, cut it at 2 foot tall, And it regrows to full size in 4 weeks. I can testify to that, yes. So you get 5 harvests per season, 20 tons per cutting, 100 tons annually for 20 years from a single planting that costs nothing to maintain. And that is absolutely true. So to truly understand why the fertilizer industry needed comfrey to disappear, we need to go back to the early 1900s when the world was genuinely running out of natural fertilizer as guano deposits, fat poop, was disappearing, right? So German chemists then developed a process to synthesize ammonia from atmospheric nitrogen, and that process saved the world from starvation, while it addicted us to agriculture, fertilizers, and fossil fuels. The fertilizer industry, now worth $230 billion annually, runs on the fundamental requirement that farmers keep buying it. And comfrey breaks that model. So on July 6, 2001, the FDA issues a warning saying that comfrey for internal use needed to be removed from the market because it causes liver damage. And that's the first thing I learned about comfrey as a herbalist, from an herbalist standpoint. So you consume the roots in large quantities over long periods of time, and yes, it will. So if you eat large quantities of comfrey roots every day for years, yes, you will get liver damage.
Okay.
But the FDA did not say that. Garden Center saw the word toxic, nursery saw the word liver damage, and the public heard dangerous, and nobody heard the part that mattered. Used as a soil amendment or mulch, there is absolutely zero risk. The distinction between don't take the roots in large quantities and grow it because are enormous. And when I actually started growing comfrey back in 2013, 2014 timeframe, I was told it was a noxious weed, and the USDA, the local extension agent, would come and exterminate it. So within 5 years, comfrey vanished from mainstream gardening. In 2001, natural gas prices were rising, and the fertilizer industry was consolidating into massive conglomerates who needed the farmers' annual purchases. And that was only one part of why it disappeared. So there's another way to use comfrey that threatened the fertilizer industry, and that is you put cut leaves into water, and I did not know this, and let it steep for 3 to 4 weeks. The smell is terrible, but it outperforms every commercial liquid plant feed.
Wow. Well, if it smells bad, it's because of that, right? It's
Exactly.
got nutrients.
So there's an Amish farm in Holmes County, Ohio, which has the largest, and I can't even talk tonight, largest Amish settlement in the world that hasn't purchased a single bale of commercial hay in over a decade. Not because they have found a better supplier, because they stopped needing one. The same plant comes back every year from the same roots. They cut it 4 to 6 times a season. It feeds their cattle, their goats, their rabbits, their chickens, and probably their pigs at protein levels that would cost 3 times as much if they bought it in a bed. Neighbors think they got lucky with good land. They got lucky with comfrey. Amish have been growing it for feed since before most of us were born. After the 2001 announcement made by the FDA, university extension officials that had once recommended it for livestock feeding stopped mentioning it, and feed stores stopped selling it. The commercial hay industry is worth over $10 billion a year, and of course they said nothing, because comfrey does not harvest by combine, it doesn't bale, and it doesn't ship by the ton. But it does produce 100 tons of green material per acre per year. Quality grass hay under good conditions with irrigation produces 4 to 6 tons of dry matter. Comfrey is high in water content. It has 80 to 85% content. So when it dries, it converts to 6 to 8 tons of dry matter without irrigation. So grass hay with irrigation, you're getting 4 to maybe 6 tons. Comfrey without irrigation, after it dries and loses its water content, you're getting 6 to 8 tons. So it's still a much better yield than hay. And the protein number is what really separates Comfrey from hay. Premium alfalfa runs 17 to 20% crude protein. Russian Comfrey runs 20 to 30% crude protein. It also has vitamin B12, a nutrient that most plants do not accumulate.
Oh,
I did not know all this when I started growing Comfrey.
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So Amish farmers establish it with crown sets or root cuttings, and Comfrey, the bocking or booking 14 does not make seeds, so it supposedly stays where it's planted.
Mm-hmm.
My experience with the Comfrey, I have Russian Comfrey, is it stays until you cut through it with, it grows by root division.
Mm-hmm.
So you separate the roots and another plant will come. And I think it also spreads seeds, because I now have Comfrey everywhere, which is good. I'm happy.
Yeah.
So the Amish farmers, they establish it with crown sets or root cuttings, 2 to 3 feet apart in root rows wide enough to walk through. They water it once. And year 1, they hold it back, 1 cutting, to let the root system build itself as it goes deep and learns the mineral profile of Pachamama from 6 to 10 feet down. Year 2, you get a full harvest. The Amish harvest it first when it hits 18 to 24 inches in height, because that is when it has the highest protein. Because, of course, as it grows, the protein content diminishes, right? Or varies, because nothing stays the same. Year 2, you get a full harvest. They dry some in the field, they feed some fresh, and they start processing it for winter storage in July. So an established quarter acre of Comfrey will produce more usable protein per year than a full acre of grass hay for 25 to 30 years without replanting.
Okay.
Comfrey is not a single feed for livestock, because it can't replace hay by itself, because the alkaloids really do accumulate over time and cause liver damage if it's the only feed, and only if it's the only feed.
Okay.
So fresh cut, the Amish feed it to their animals. Left in the field for 24 to 48 hours, it wilts, which reduces its water content and concentrates its nutrients. And then dried properly, it stores for months.
Mm-hmm.
Dried properly means low heat with a good airflow, basically in a ventilated barn. And dried Comfrey then feeds through winter as hay would, and it's best used as 30 to 40% of the diet for most animals.
Okay. And then we saw some images of the Comfrey.
Yeah. And I grow it, and I did not know this.
Oh, wow. Well, that's why we are doing this research.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So next week we're going to follow this up with the plants that can all replace the hay industry and bring the hay industry to its needs.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Because that's the question I've been asking, is how do we live without buying hay every year?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is fodder beets. So you could do fodder beets in Comfrey, but you still need some more fiber, because Comfrey doesn't have much fiber. But we'll talk about that next week.
Okay, that's a wonderful theme, a wonderful subject to talk about. So what would be the title, so we can have it?
Well, we're going to start next week with why it's important to dance.
Why it's important to the stance?
To dance.
To dance, okay. To
Yeah.
dance, right? It's
And
important
then
to
we'll go
dance.
into the crops that replace hay.
The crops that replace hay. So now we're doing kind of two
True.
different two subjects in one conversation,
Yeah, we've been
which is
doing
great.
that. We've been
Yeah, we've
doing
been
2
doing.
to
Well,
3.
we used to do even up to three. So this is great, but just for me to organize and to tell folks that we're gonna have this new
Yeah.
organization. Yeah, so you will find also. I'm gonna start doing some videos of this. I mean, I can just extract a piece of this and put it in one video, so it won't be just on the live section, but we'll be in the video section, and of course we'll be doing shorts of all of these conversations. And we will be live if somebody wants to be here live at 8:45 Central Standard Time for
Yeah.
the next session of Owl Freedom Teachings.
So, yeah, to follow this up with Comfrey, we're going to talk about the 7 plants that make hay obsolete.
The 7 plants that make hay obsolete. Okay, so those are the two subjects: the importance of dancing and the 7 plants that make hay obsolete.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so anything else?
Yeah, let's go into the Taoist arts of the bedchamber and talk about teachings on erotic preparation or foreplay.
Okay, teachings on erotic preparation and foreplay. Already, take it on.
So most classical Chinese instructions emphasize foreplay as essential hygiene. Among the most important are the 9 touches before entry. The idea is that before the dragon enters the gate, yin must be touched, kissed, breathed upon, and warmed at least 9 times. These touches may include the breasts, the nape of the neck, the inner thighs, the navel, the lower abdomen, the back, and the shoulder blades, the wrists and the inner arms, pubic mound, the lips and earlobes, and then the gaze with the eyes with soft gaze.
Mhm.
So each touch needs to be slow, deliberate, and aligned with breath. And the goal is not to excite, it is to activate the energetic presence in each area. So Taoist cultivation views the body not simply as a collection of organs and nerves, which is what we do, most of us,
Mhm.
but they observe it as an energetic landscape. A living temple with specific gateways through which Qi enters, circulates, and transforms. And there are 4 foundational gateways that are important for erotic awakening without
Mhm.
depletion. And by stimulating these 4 portals with care, breath, and presence, the phoenix, the yin body, begins to awaken in both. Remember, just because you're a man doesn't mean you don't have a yin body.
Okay.
And just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I don't have a yang body.
Mm-hmm.
So then the yin field softens, blossoms, and naturally draws in the dragon's qi through resonance. Number 1 is breath and scent, which is the nose and lungs. The breath is both literal and energetic. It is the bridge between the body and the unseen world. Scent is the direct line to the limbic system and the emotional brain where memory, desire, and safety reside. So in the bedchamber, breath and scent are the first invisible touch. So the practices are to breathe in union, use aromatic oils or herbs, and the scent should be subtle. Mouth to mouth breath transfer with soft lips parted, and allow our exhale to become our partner's inhale, which promotes trust and openness. Number 2, the ears and whispering, which is sound, or the Shen, the spirit, right? The ears open directly into Shen, or spirit. Sound bypasses logic and touches the soul. The soft voice is not just sensual, it is energetic acupuncture for the heart and kidneys. So the practices would be to whisper into the ears with mantra or poetic words such as, I am still with you, because we are entering heaven together. And then number 3, the breast and chest. These are gateways of trust, vitality, and inner alchemy. The nipples are sometimes referred to as the yang buttons of the phoenix, because they're there. I had a long trouble with this as a 17-year-old. It's like they're always there. I can't hide them. They're always there. The keys to igniting her internal fire, absolutely. So the practices are to breast massage with warm oil, kiss and breath, and let your lips hover, Min, over her breasts, exhaling gently before contact. Because when the chest opens, the sun shines, and the phoenix begins to arise, not from touch alone, but from being seen and perceived without haste.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to Adam Tokunaga and slow sex, the slow touch, right?
Okay.
Inner thigh, the number 4, the gate, inner thighs, groin, and labia. The key here is patience. The inner thighs and groin are energetic borders, places where the yang can either be absorbed or rejected, depending on presence or rhythm. So the practices are slow, rhythmic stroking, beginning at the knees or hips and gliding inward, and pause just before reaching the labia. Wait, breathe, and return outward. Observe her readiness signs, such as moisture, pelvic tilt, warmth, subtle contraction of the labia or inner thighs, because these are all signals that the yin has opened. And when the lower dantian is warmed, penetration is no longer needed to awaken bliss. The gate draws the dragon inward as an invitation. It's just a union. It's no longer penetration. So each of these gateways prepares the yin body with presence, patience, and reverence. And when all 4 are honored, the phoenix awakens to her full radiance. She rises to be met, not taken, and she rides the wind of yang to merge, to spiral, and carry the union into the Tao. So warming the stove or foreplay is not simply a sensual suggestion, it's a ritual progression, a sequence of energetic awakening that respects the natural rhythm of yin and prevents the exhaustion of yang. And when followed with sincerity, this method leads to moments of seamless fusion. The gate opens, the essence stirs, and union arises without effort or strain. So there's 3 phases in this energetic readiness. Number 1 is awakening the surface channels, the skin meridians, inviting the whole body into awareness, which would be the slow sex of Adam Tokunaga, right?
Okay.
Taoist philosophy teaches that the surface of the body, especially the back, the limbs, and neck, contain subtle pathways that must be warmed before the deeper gates open. Gentle full body touch is good for this. And then number 2 is drawing the chi into the cauldron, the lower dantian. And once the surface channels open, the body has accepted the rhythm of touch. The energy flows into the pelvic bowl. This phase is both emotional and energetic. Now touch is directed from the limbs inward, from calves to thighs, from wrist to chest, from back to sacrum. Sound here is key. Sighing, humming, or gentle moans, these open the 2 deeper channels of the Renmai and the Chongmai. So let your hands move in spirals and breathe toward the pelvic bowl. Whisper into the womb space or the sacrum, ladies or men. The yin body is now no longer passive. It is a magnetizing field, and we may feel subtle pulses or increased warmth or pelvic swelling or more. And then number 3 is fusion at the gate of jade. The gate of jade is the vagina, the yoni.
Okay.
When the warmth has fully risen, when the womb or cervix is pulsing, when moisture gathers, the possibility of physical union now arises. Penetration now is not just an action, it is a consequence of resonance. Signs of readiness: the vaginal walls pulse or contract involuntarily, the cervix feels warmed, and there's a natural rhythm of stillness between touch. Eye contact holds without effort. Practices then are to let union begin in stillness without thrusting. Allow the entry to be guided by yin, not by what the yang wants, only when the yin calls. And once inside, pause and breathe together. Let the energy settle before moving. So that when the stove is properly warmed, the yin body pulls the yang in, not to be filled, but to fuse. And this is the alchemical moment. The fire is lit, cauldron steams, and something ancient awakens. Not just pleasure, but presence. Presence of the Tao, presence of God. Not just climax, coherence. To honor the 3 phases of stove warming is to honor the mystery of yin. She is slow. She's not slow. She is deep. She is not fragile. She is very layered. And when her layers are warmed with patience, she becomes the gate to heaven. So the dragon who learns this art does not tire. He circulates and he is drawn into the Tao. To support the sacred process, a simple warming altar beside the bed or mat is good. And on the warming altar could be a small bowl of oil infused with herbs or scents, a candlelight, incense or resin such as sandalwood or frankincense, a soft towel or cloth, and the stone like jade or rose quartz to be held in her hand during the warming to ground or invoke. So to warm the stove is to prepare not just the body, but the world around it, because the heart can now open without fear. And once the heart is open, the gate of jade waits to be met.
Yeah. So connection, time, and taking it slow, taking it with feeling, with connection, with not rushing it, and a whole bunch of teachings that you have been sharing all along these conversations, these presentations, these videos. And is there anything else?
Not for tonight.
So with that, I guess we are done. We want to invite everyone, if they want to join this community, you can go to alohainidaoliving.com and we are in Freedom Shift and Facebook and Instagram, and Aloha Ni Dao Living in YouTube and in Rumble. So join us if you wish to be part of this freedom seeking community. Otherwise, you can join us too in our next live session. So thank you for watching, and please leave a comment or any question that you might wish. And see you next time.